You've had inquiries and Ushio and Tora are now giving you the responses. It's a gift that keeps on giving as part 2 of this adventure in the duo's trip up north peppers eagerly anticipated story points amongst an action-packed extravaganza. Tora is sitting on a treetop doing nothing while Ushio fights his butt off to keep from becoming a yokai's food. Make sure to stay tuned until the end. Episode 13. A slice of bread is presented to Ushio, who tries to give it to someone else. After surviving a near-death experience, Ushio is only concerned about the well-being of the passengers on the bus from the previous episode. Frequently, when a character is too admirable, it can become unrealistic and annoying. But Ushio's generosity is effective because he doesn't adopt a passive stance. Instead, he takes the necessary action to advance the plot. A highly revealing exchange occurs between Ushio and the elderly man he saves in the forest. Ushio states, "I've started to grow used to it." The elderly guy inquires, "Killing yokai?" Ushio clarifies, "The truth is that yokai genuinely exist." Ushio will never get used to killing, regardless of how skilled he becomes. While inwardly contemplating whether he wants to protect his reputation or Ushio's life, Tora is going through his most recent pride crisis. In the end, it's a simple choice, but Tora can't help but feel completely tsundere about it. He claims that all he wants to do is save Ushio so that he may have dinner. He doesn't want to save Ushio. Instead, he only feels like battling the yokai that are now endangering the little boy. Both Ushio's discovering a home in the mist and the conspicuously displayed 9-tailed fox god are right out of a tall tale. No less legendary is the secret surrounding Ushio's mother. A mysterious fantasy realm with its own mysteries and shocks replaces the current world more and more as Ushio and Tora go on. Episode 14. Ushio and Tora have finally arrived in Hokkaido, but if Ushio believes he can reach Mom so simply, he's in for a surprise. The bearer of the beast spear is being pursued by every yokai in their path, and 4 more humans have joined them. The first is Hinoa, a girl who, given her similarity to Asako, fully appears to be Ushio's type, but isn't thinking about Ushio's best interests. Hinoa has been keeping an eye on him for a while, so she knows just how to give Ushio the merciless gut punch he needs, by hinting that he will continue to do harm as long as he uses the spear. She attempts to take the spear out of Ushio's hand in a display of hubris, and he really relinquishes it. Hinoa hurts Ushio's pride in this situation in addition to his morals. Just 1 week after Tora had to choose between his pride and Ushio's life in the previous episode, the roles had been reversed. The worst mistake, according to Hinoa, was Ushio's refusal to even try to overcome Tora. On his side, Tora states that there is no sense if you don't fight in consuming the spearless Ushio. The two are set to face some significant difficulties in the shape of Hinoa, Akiba, and the final 2 unintroduced aspirants for the Beast Spear, so it's also timely. Naturally, the Beast Spear only hears Ushio, and you may infer what happens from there. Have you observed that Ushio is very good with women for a middle schooler? Although he tends to blush frequently, he is classy and always willing to help a lady in need. The episode's second half is stronger, and rather than being one continuous plot as is usually the case, it really seems like 2 separate episodes. A new character enters and leaves, then is followed by another. A second candidate for the Beast Spear named Akiba has expressed a stronger desire to slay the legendary yokai than to get his partner's weapon. The finest fights are those in which the participants learn and develop, and this one demonstrates Tora's mental and physical toughness. Hinoa was no match for Akiba and his formidable eyebrows, who may have earned a spot among Ushio and Tora's most trusted comrades. The latter third of Ushio and Tora has only just begun, yet this episode already leaves the audience hanging. There wasn't nearly enough time to complete the story between the introduction of 2 new characters, the development of the relationship between Ushio and Tora, and the disclosure of further details regarding the Hakumen no Mano. Episode 15. Ushio needs to stop using public transit forever and give the entire world a favor. This is the 3rd time he's been on a bus or an airline, and it's getting old. Ushio has always felt guilty enough about endangering innocent people because he chose to take the bus, but this episode brings his anxiety to a whole new level. We interpret it as a 3rd time's the charm scenario, in which Ushio is learning that his presence could endanger the individuals he's trying to save. Ushio and Tora's new friend Akiba come in handy during the bus scene, from his laid-back demeanor to his expert fighting skills to his outrageous eyebrows. On the other hand, Moritsuna and his younger sister June are more challenging to sell, starting with his puzzling drug trip interlude and ending with his apparent demise. What? That is by no means enough time to get to know this newest potential Beast Spear user, much less develop a concern for what might happen to him. It could be a ruse to make June seem like a likable character, but we really do not buy it. It's difficult to determine what's going on with Moritsuna because of the episode's enigmatic ending. He is undoubtedly under the control of the Hakumen no Mano, but did the curse actually end when Ushio threw the Beast Spear his way? In a blood-tinged memory, Jun sees a blood-covered Moritsuna with crazed eyes. However, when he finally experiences a brief period of clarity, not reflecting either of his psychotic youth or his present self, it is more likely that this was just a badly expressed initial impression of a potential ally. Episode 16. In a program that is gradually becoming a high-stakes drama, levitation feels out of place. However, it solely works in Ushio and Tora. This episode manages to inject humor into a dire scenario without detracting from the atmosphere. We ought to have realized that Moritsuna wouldn't be eliminated so easily. Even if he is asleep for the majority of it, at least this time he has the full half hour to deal with his problems. He is asleep for the majority of this episode, while Ushio and Tora plan to pull a magic school bus and condense themselves to the size of his brain's demons. Tora undoubtedly regrets not staying at home today. Naturally, they make a new yokai companion, as they always do whenever Ushio and Tora need a brand new skill that hasn't been tried before. Izuna is a kind of fox, known as a tsundere. Izuna can't help but pick conflicts with individuals who are much bigger than him. Yet his relationships with Ushio and Tora are entertaining in an unexpected way. The trio is in a precarious scenario where failure might result in both their own and Moritsuna's death, but who is genuinely afraid? Our heroes can possess another person with Izuna's assistance, but Ushio risks turning into a beast for the rest of his life if he succeeds in this job. In a sea of myopic characters that only pay attention to the immediate work at hand, Akiba sees the larger picture. Akiba is swiftly emerging as one of the greatest things the program has to offer. Akiba can empathize with Ushio instead of dwelling on his own failing to be selected by the Beast Spear. He's only a middle schooler who got stuck in this by accident. Ushio resolves to take a chance on his life to make Jun smile, saying to Akiba, "I wonder how many females a guy can stop from crying in a lifetime." Izuna responds to Ushio's impending gloom with ironic humor. There's an order to things. Later, the boss appears. It is the ideal illustration of the humor that perfectly balances this show at key moments. The episode finishes on a cliffhanger, so this emotional roller coaster is far from over. Even so, it's the harmony of the many emotions that will have you curious about what comes next. This concludes my review for the Ushio and Tora episodes from 13 to 16. If you're interested in the next part as well, please let me know in the comments section. Subscribe to my channel and make sure to keep the notifications on to be updated about the next part.